My name is Sade Tramble, and this is my cycle of socialization and liberation. So, first, I'm going to start off with a list of my identities, and then I'm going to hone in on three. I am a cis female, Christian, grew up in the Lutheran Church, Missouri Synod. I would be considered upper middle class when growing up. I am multiracial and heterosexual. I'm currently able bodied and educated. So, the first identity that I want to talk about is being multiracial, and how I got to the point of identifying as multiracial. As you can see, my parents here, I am comprised of being African American, white, and Native American. My dad is all three of those, and my mom is white. Um, I felt like growing up, I had to choose a race to identify with. Um, and being asked as a child, what am I? As it pertained to my race, was very eye opening to me and I guess offensive. Um, and so having to pick when filling out paperwork what your race is. And when I was young, there wasn't an other box or a multiracial box even. So I had to choose between being African American or white. Um, and even though I do have a lot of Native American in me from my great grandparents and my grandparents, it always came down to, am I white or black? And choosing friends and making friends and um, growing up that way and just having to choose. And so as I've, you know, grown up and gotten older and learned more about races, I now choose to identify as multiracial because I didn't appreciate having to choose a side growing up. My parents brought us up in the upper middle class, and um, I think that most people would assume that one of my parents is college educated and the other isn't, and that people would assume that it would be my mom who was educated and my dad who was not. And when it was really the other way around, my dad has a college degree and my mom does not. However, my mom was the breadwinner in our family and worked her way up at a Fortune 500 company and definitely made a lot more money than my dad did when we were growing up. And so I think again, just by people assuming and looking at my family, they wouldn't know that. So of course it was instilled in me and my sister that we would go to college and get an education, and that the bachelor's would be paid for by my parents. And I was told if I wanted to go on further, it would be up to me to do that. So I went and got my master's, and that was on me. And now I am working on my doctorate and would be the first person on either side of my family, um, if I finish, to earn a doctorate. And the last identity that I want to talk about is my Christianity. I was raised in the Lutheran Church, Missouri Synod, in which some would consider that a more strict sect of the Christian religion. And I think growing up, I was baptized as a baby, took my first communion in sixth grade, did my catechism classes, was confirmed in eighth grade, and spent a lot of my time in high school at church and growing up in the church. But when I went off to college and to grad school, and even as a young adult, I separated myself some from the church, and I think that's where I really found my identity. As a Christian, and have recently found my way back to the Lutheran Church. But I myself choose to still be more liberal than maybe what my specific church would say about some topics, such as abortion and the LGBTQIA community, whereas they would probably and do say no to abortion and aren't maybe as accepting of the LGBTQIA community, I myself, again, choose to be more liberal and don't share those same views on some of those more controversial topics and communities. So while I am a Christian, I have different views sometimes than what the church may want me to have. And I think I found that during my time away from the church, which I think is important. So bringing it back around then to my identities, that I am a cis female, Christian, and Lutheran, upper middle class growing up, multiracial, heterosexual, currently able-bodied, and an educated person. The three that I talked about are the three probably closest to me, and I hope that you learned some about me. Thanks.